Everybody gone. Nobody talking anything more. All the pre-show.
Done. Yeah, I know. We have the pre-show, but now we're in the pre-show
and post-show and pre-game and post-game. And my wife is printing something on the damn printer.
Oh, that scared the crap out of me the other day, too. I had the same thing happen. I'm printing out lesson plans. It's like, could you text me before it started to? It just scared the crap out of me. I was like,
same here.
Yeah, it's like, because it's right next to me. Like, it's literally right where my right arm is.
Oh, my gosh. And I'm like on in this game. I think it was playing Force Awakens. And all of a sudden, it's all,
yeah,
it starts shaking the desk. And hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to episode 38 of the Guardian Hub podcast, where we talk Destiny and our experiences in the game. We spotlight different guests and communities and talk about our love of the game. This is Kingsley, Mac, and Sin. Sin, we're on episode 38. Are you ready to stop the podcast yet?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll stop it right here. This will be the shortest episode ever.
And everyone have a good night. Okay, we have to have at least one more guest on because we have actually, this is our first ever 2-time guest. Clearnite, how are you doing?
Monumental.
Thank you. Appreciate the honor on that one. I didn't even think about that, but that's a good one to have. Means you're running through your list, and now I'm back to me, huh? Okay, I appreciate that.
So nice, we did you twice.
Yeah. No, we definitely. I was looking forward to the season. We want to talk about all the upcoming changes, and just thought it'd be kind of fun to have you on to talk about that, which we will, of course, a little bit later. But how you been? What's new in your life?
It's not been bad. Actually, let me turn off all my alerts because we were just talking about how these unexpected sounds and technology start to interfere with us. But you can kind of hear from my voice. I actually been talking about that in the last few casts that I've had. Is still been struggling with this like upper chest respiratory thing. It started off as bronchitis, and then it turned into like I'll call it a mild pneumonia, and then kind of gotten better and worse. But I've pretty much been sick since the beginning of October, so it's been a little frustrating.
Wow.
So I apologize if I'm a little rustic sounding, but otherwise it's been good. Although I feel good, it's just the coughing is just kind of getting me. But either way, but there's lots of
rustic. I like it.
Everybody keeps asking, "Is like you get enough sleep?" I'm like, not really, because that's usually my time for gaming. So whether it's Destiny or other things, right? Mostly Destiny, but yeah, sleep's underrated. If I get 4 to 5 hours, I'm 4 to 5 hours, I'm okay. So, but no, I've been doing well. It's doing the grind. I've actually been taking a little bit of a hiatus, except for anybody who needs like a raid or something like that. I've been or a completion of something. Been kind of taking a little bit of a break from the last couple weeks of Destiny. Kind of got to that point where it's like waiting for the new season, and kind of felt myself getting a little bit, I wouldn't say burnout because I never get really burnt out on Destiny, but just there's so many other games to try that, at heart, this is the time of year where it's a little tough for me to kind of stick to just one game, although Destiny has always had its hooks in me to kind of keep me back in. So, and I'm very excited about the next season. I have some reservations and we'll get to, but like I do overall like the concept of a new season and a new fresh start with everything. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, let's just start with some of what other games you've been kind of working on. Probably I know a lot, but any come top to mind or ones you've been working on more than others?
There'll be a couple that are there you've probably saw or heard me play before, and there'll be probably one that you would never in the world guess that I would be playing, because I would never have guessed that I would be playing it. So I've been going back to Sea of Thieves recently because I've always liked that game, and it kind of had a little bit of a false start in the beginning. I was in the alpha, and they had a little bit of a lackluster start at that. But you can get it on the Microsoft Pass. I actually happen to be one of the people who did buy it before release, although I do have the Microsoft Pass for other games. But there's been a lot of A lot of turnaround in that game. I would say it had its Taken King moment. I would say even say like earlier this year, because it just has so much loot and changes and enhancements and stuff that coming back to it, I wasn't even prepared for. So it's kind of funny to see a game like that where, you know, for Destiny, we've been pretty much on since a certain point. You've started and you've played since, you know, let's say I'm back from the beginning. You guys, I think we're like taking tots or somewhere around there, right? Like but since then we've been kind of consistently playing, but we always talk about returning players. So it's been kind of interesting to be a returning player in another game. You know what I mean? So you can kind of see the you know, like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do. Where do I start? You know, so that's where I start going to videos and, you know, help me's and things like that. So it's been interesting with that. So I've been playing that. I've been enjoying that. Because I haven't been feeling as why I haven't been streaming as much recently, though we have been recording a little bit less consistently because of it. But we have had a couple episodes. But then I actually streamed last night Sea of Thieves for the first time in a while, stream. So that was fun. The game that you will never, ever believe that I would play. I was even laughing at it when I first saw it on the Steam sale.
Barbie Land?
Try. Actually, don't be messing with Arby's, man.
I don't even know.
Cuphead.
Yes.
Arby's got the meats. All that hate, man. Well, here, take another guess, just out of curiosity. There was a whole bunch of Steam games, and you probably would never guess.
I mean,
but
I don't know. I don't care what people play, but I'm trying to guess.
Yeah.
So is it like way out there, like no one's heard of it, or is it just like a genre you would think people would?
It's a genre probably that you would never think of necessarily.
Except for a few of the big games, keeping up with all the games that are out there. So
you played a wrestling game, 2K20.
That's not a bad guess, actually. Although I didn't. I did play that back when I was younger, those kind of games. But no, that's not a bad guess though, because that's a genre I haven't really kind of tapped back into. I downloaded the American Trucker game.
Oh, I have that.
I know you do. I actually saw that you had friends who has this game. Like Kingsley has this game. That's amazing to me, and I thought it was probably because of Utah.
Because someone recommended it on a podcast I listened to, and I downloaded it, and I just never had the time to get into it.
I laughed at myself for doing this, and it was a sale for like $7 for the base game, right? And so I was like, all right, well, who would ever play this? It's like same thing I think I even joked with like Gunbay at one point. It's like Farming Simulator, same kind of thing, right? Like who would do a Farming Simulator game? They're up to like version 19. Like what? You know? So like American Truck, I'm like, all right, whatever. But then it's funny because during the holidays, I've always been a person who likes driving. I tend to, even when we do like road trips, especially with the kids, I drive. And not that I don't let my wife drive. I have no problem with that. I just enjoy driving. I just always have, even if it's a long drive. So I always thought to myself, like, hey, I like these kind of games that just, where you kind of go out and Sea of Thieves kind of has this where you kind of travel a lot and stuff. But it's like, why would I ever go? And it was a sale. It was like a featured game. It's like, why would I ever want to play this? And I looked at it. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So I was $7. Then I started watching some videos. I don't know why I even did it. Clicked on it. I was like, this is kind of interesting. And there's like some things to it and such. It's a gorgeous game. Like it's amazing, like open world game, and all the DLCs for the different states were all on sale. So I started with that. I was actually driving to Lancaster last weekend, and I'm like, and I was just playing games in my mind. I don't know if you guys, when you drive, Sin, I know you drive a lot for your commute, right? So when you're on a long drive, you have to find ways to occupy it. Sometimes it's Audible or other podcasts or whatever, and that occupies your mind. But generally, mechanically, you want to also keep yourself aware. So I tend to play like road games where like, okay, I'm going to try and pass this car. I'm trying to get this, or just, like different things while staying safe,
Run over the pedestrian.
Right. Don't run over the pedestrians. Don't lose points, that kind of thing. So for on a lark, I downloaded, I got $7. What the heck? And I watched some streams. Like, all right, looks interesting. I got addicted to the fact where I've got all the different DLCs, and because every time you add a new DLC, it adds just another state, so it fills another state. So it starts with California and I think Arizona, and then there's a Washington one and Oregon, and I think that there's a Utah, which is why I thought of you when I saw that you had purchased it. Yeah. There's a Utah one. Oh, you don't have it? That's funny because there's a beautiful Utah one. And so they come out with these DLCs, and there's also a European version of it, which was also on sale that I bought that I haven't started yet, but I did get it. So I'm hardcore addicted to it. And there's a huge streaming community for it. It's a single player game, but there are mods, especially like Steam mods, that are able to make it so you can play multiplayer. So I haven't gotten into that yet, but it's just interesting. Just kind of a funny thing of what it was. But what I find it to be, it's a very cathartic game. Like you're constantly driving, and I'm like, well, it's like grass growing, but like there are streaming radio stations that you can listen to. It's like I've done the long commutes. I've done all those crazy sort of drives, and after a while, like, got tired of it. But now my commute is not as bad anymore. Maybe that's why I can kind of open up to it. But I was enjoying it. You take on, you customize your rig. You start with rental rigs that you can't afford your own. You buy your own. You customize it. You upgrade all those kind of games and car games. Same thing. Like I play Forza. Sometimes Rob and I have talked about it. I like Forza, and I like to buy and acquire new vehicles there. So it's the same thing. You buy certain trucks, and you can do paint jobs and other kinds of enhancements. But here, ultimately, what you're doing is you're taking things from point A to point B, and you're delivering it. But just the environment and sort of immersion that you have, it makes it interesting. So I don't know. I've never would have thought that I would play that game. I used to always laugh about that kind of stuff, but it's actually, in some ways, when I start thinking about it, the games like GTA and Red Dead Redemption and even some other games like Star Citizen and No Man's Sky, you're doing a lot of traveling, and it's very immersive, but it's not as sort of like the ones in Red Dead, and you play and you run around, and Grand Theft, you would do truck missions and stuff, but this is actually just more immersive. So I don't know. It's a change of pace, and I think that what I needed was, I love community, I love playing with other players, but because of my not feeling well and just my sounds and not wanting to cough in a lot of people's ears a lot of times and recording and all that kind of stuff, I wanted to try something a little bit more solo that I could get into. And yeah, I did launch up Sea of Thieves, and I played some of that and did some of that. Oh, that's a community game. I did play some of the Jedi. I do know that that's a lot of fun as well. So I did play, some hours on that as well. But then just this week, from December 1 till pretty much the other day, I've been pretty much every night playing 3 or 4 hours of this truck simulator game. It's crazy.
Well, you have me excited again. Now, remind me, when you're traveling, is it real time, or can you speed it up at all? Or?
It's not sped up in terms of that, but it must be a compressed time, because I know when you're traveling across California, it's going to take you several days, right? So when I'm driving around, the game does take a while. Like you lose track of time. It's one of those games where you're like, crap, it's 2 or 3 hours later, and I just did like 2 missions, but you don't really feel that. You're just one of those things. But it's because you're going from point A to point B, and you're avoiding things. And you have rain effect, and sometimes you have detours and other sorts of things you have to that you can adjust the slider on. But it's not quite real time, and you don't speed it up. But it's, I would say, compressed time to miles. So like you can do a trip from, let's say, Utah to Portland, Oregon, and it may be a 3 or 4 hour mission, as opposed to multiple days.
Yeah.
So it's not.
Yeah, I mean, normally that would be a 14-hour drive. I've done that before.
Right. Yeah. Right. So it's not trivial. It's not like you're doing it in like 5 minutes, but you are taking a good amount of time, and you're going on some roads and side roads and stuff. So, and you're seeing there's like different monuments and stuff. Now, I'm an East Coaster, so I can't vouch for too much of the authenticity of all the sort of side roads and things like that. I do know some other games have been really good at doing this, so I don't know the background, but maybe you would have a little bit more. If you looked at the Utah, you would probably be more familiar. If it was a Pennsylvania, Jersey, New York one, I'd be a little more familiar and say, oh, this is where they got it wrong, this is where they got it right, But it's the whole point is it gets you that feel of just open road and driving, and you can throw on another stream, and it's probably a good game for streaming because you can just be talking to your community, just chatting it up. And if you do those multiplayer mods, you can actually join these companies and convoys and stuff, and just be talking with them on CB and stuff. So it's interesting. So it's a little bit of a change of pace and a little bit of a cathartic experience, but it's been fun. So
that's great.
But I would never have. But then I saw you, so I'm like, okay, I got to ask you about this one because I would never have thought anyone would have that I know of, to play it. But hey. It's don't knock it till you try it. You know what I mean?
No, and I heard good things. Basically, kind of what some of the things you said, but I just had never got it. I forget when I even got it. Do they tell you in Steam the date you purchased the game? Okay.
Yeah, you can go back and look. Yeah, how many hours and when you acquired it. You have to look in your history, I think, to see when you acquired it. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, cool.
And it was $7 during the Steam sale too, the base game. So like 75% off. It's kind of hard to turn around a $7 game. You know what I mean? So
yeah, American Truck Simulator.
Yeah.
Now, Fallen Order, I've passed that game. I really liked it.
Did you finish it?
I did. Yeah,
okay.
And it's one of these games that it doesn't have much. There's not really any side quests or things like that. So once you finish it, it's kind of done, unfortunately. But that being said, it was well worth it. I just did another month of Origin Game Pass. I might cancel it, but really, in essence, I only paid $15 for it because got it done quickly. But I highly recommend the game. It was a lot of fun. you've played it some? What
I played up to the third planet. I forget what the name of it is, where you have the choice of two planets and you pick one or the other. And I picked the one planet where you go to, and there's I think it might actually be Darth Maul's home planet, if I recall, if that's the lore. I'm not as familiar with his lore, but I think that was one of the ones I heard. So, but no, I mean, I also had the Origin the Origin premiere back from when Anthem came out. I had an annual pass because I got a real cheap deal, and I checked to see when it was renewing. It's renewing at the end of this month, honestly. So it was right before Anthem was coming out, and I know Battlefield 5 was out, and so I wanted to play both of those, and I kind of looked at that equation, like 2 games for the price of an annual pass for this premiere service. I'm like, why not? Let's just do that, because there's a whole bunch of other games I would have played. I would play too, like some of the BioShock, and Mass Effect games and other ones. So I still had it from that. So it didn't cost me anything to get invested in it. But amazing. I actually brought my brother was over for some family events a few weeks back. And he's one of those, PC Master Race guys, and he tends to play certain games, and he has the highest bleeding edge, spec games. And he never heard of it. And I showed it to him. He's like, this is gorgeous. Like, this is just beautiful. Like, cinematically, it's amazing. Graphics, plot line. I think even the controller, I like the way I actually do use a controller on the PC. I saw that they recommended it, and I would agree. This is one of those games that lends itself really well to a controller, I think. Not to say that
Uncharted on PS4.
Yes, yeah, and it actually had it kind of had that feel to me. It was like Star Wars theme, but it kind of reminded me of Uncharted, especially with the climbings and the beginning, and when you go through the intro, the Star Destroyers where you're kind of tearing them down. I thought where you see the different highlighted of where you can jump to, straight out of Uncharted for me, and then also maybe a little bit of Assassin's Creed and Tomb Raider,
running on the walls, and
Yeah, so it had that kind of a feel to me, and then it had like the old. And I used to play a lot of the old Jedi games back, the Dark Forces and Jedi Knight and Jedi Knight 2, and those are some of my favorite games. And I played Force Unleashed and stuff, but I actually prefer more like the Jedi Knight games, which are a little more authentic, I should say. But I liked how they handled customization. I like how you were adding skills to a skill tree. I haven't gotten the dual blade, but I thought that was cool that you could actually have a dual blade and enable that for various things and change the way you were deflecting. So I would definitely agree. I would recommend it. Not that I think we're saying anything new. I think pretty much unanimously, I haven't heard anybody say anything negative about the game, honestly. It's an amazing graphic and storytelling game, and the action is amazing. I think the only reason why I probably put it on pause is Shadowkeep, I think, because I think it was like right around that same kind of time it was coming out. That I'm trying to remember when it came out, honestly, but something pulled me away from it. It was either a Shadowkeep, or maybe it was the dungeon or something that came out, and that's probably what pulled me back into Destiny. And I haven't gone back to it maybe once since, but then I was pretty much Destiny until recently, and then, as I mentioned, Sea of Thieves and the trucking game, and then holidays, kind of the Thanksgiving holidays. I had a little bit of a break because I had to do some traveling for a little mini vacation during that time, so I didn't play too much until I came back.
Cool. And then the last game I wanted to talk about, and we can move on to Destiny, stuff. But and I hope Sin will get back in this with me sometime, is Borderlands 3, and there's a new expansion coming out.
Yep.
Sin, you excited for that at all?
I honestly have no clue what the expansion is about, and I haven't finished Borderlands 3 yet.
I mean, so I really suggest we get back into it. They've come out with some great performance enhancements where DirectX 12 works flawlessly now on the computer. A lot of quality of life things. Anyways, the expansion coming up is Moxie based, and you go into a casino that something about Handsome Jack took it from her, right? Or something like that. Comes out. When does it come out? I'm trying to look
very soon, I think. Shortly
after Season of Dawn. So unfortunately, it'll be competing against Destiny again. But I don't know. I hopped back in Borderlands the other day, and I'm like, this is still a really good game, and there's so many side quests I haven't done yet, and they have a lot in that game, so I'm excited to hop back in that.
Yeah, that's a good one. I haven't gotten back to it. I haven't finished it either. I think I played a little bit more after we played. We had a couple game sessions where we were playing co-op, and I had gotten a little further as well. I opened up, I think, another planet or two. But then I think it was Shadowkeep and Outer Worlds were the two games that both were kind of coming out, and I ended up jumping into Outer Worlds as well, and then Shadowkeep, obviously. So that's where kind of my Borderlands kind of went on a little bit of a pause. But I do agree. When these DLCs come out, I do like going through them and playing them, and it's a fun game. I mean, it's a mindless candy game, but it's a fun game, I think. So,
well, we'll consider getting to that or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right. And
I'm gonna need somebody to run the campaign for me, or like run with me, so I can complete it quickly.
Because you haven't even gotten to my favorite boss, what everyone calls the Penn and Teller boss.
I haven't gotten to that one yet.
Yeah, the final boss fights are just okay, but the Penn and Teller one's a lot of fun. I was watching Tefty playing the new free part of expansion that came out. It's like Malawan Takedown or something like that. It's basically like a strike or a little mini raid or something, and it looks pretty hardcore. You have to be at least level 50, and you have to like be all specced out. And looks like it was taking them quite a while to get through it. So if you like to grind, I guess it's one of those things you can do. Well, cool. Good talk about what we've been working on. There's always lots of fun games, but let's actually just really quick for those who haven't listened to the previous podcast, Clearnite. You are on another Destiny podcast yourself from Hoot Dawg. You want to tell us just quickly about that?
Sure thing. Yep. So as you guys are familiar,
we're familiar, but
want
to listen.
Anybody who's new, I'm Clearnite, and I'm one of the hosts on Hoot Dawg Radio. We are basically a clan-based podcast, although we talk majority of Destiny, although there have been times in the past where, as we just did here, we kind of a little slice of that. We'll jump into other games, especially myself. I kind of tend to jump into a lot more games than, let's say, my compatriot Rob. But and Rob 1103 is my other co-host right now, and basically, we do. I would say recently, because of health and other sort of fun issues, as I said, we typically are bi-weekly, so we do every 2 weeks. But every once in a while, we've had a few where it's gone to like 2.5 to 3 weeks. But generally speaking, we try and keep on schedule. I know around the holidays it gets a little tough, and I give you guys kudos for staying on target for the weeklies. I know those are tough. So even bi-weekly, we've had some challenges with. But basically, it's just it's a good conversation. We'll have guests from the clan or a couple others. We actually had Poop Shizzle on. I know he was a former guest of yours, and he was on our last episode. And I had a few other team members like Adavari and Wenzel and some others. So there's and D-Rez. So anybody who basically is in our clan, try and give them a little bit of a spotlight, give them an opportunity. And then anybody outside clan, doesn't have to be clan specific. But originally, when we were looking at it, we rebooted the podcast back in the wintertime around 50, and so Gunbait kind of moved on to do other things, and so I took over the hosting job, and that transition took a little bit just mechanically. You guys are doing the podcast thing right now, and you understand kind of like the account setups and things like that. We had to kind of transfer some keys and such over, and he's still involved in our clan when it comes to Destiny, and he's into a lot of other games as well. So, but he turned over the keys to the podcast, and I took over from there, and basically just talk about any games we're playing. Most of the time, especially in the last 9 months, it's been Destiny. So we just try and keep it chill, and bring on a guest or two, and just kind of keep a good conversation going. So
yeah, and we'll have links in our show notes, but a lot of good PC players over there. So if anyone,
yes, that is true. If you are a PC, I know there's a lot of folks that are console. We did start off on PS4, and I also had an Xbox as well, which I can occasionally play on. But for the most part, most of the clan has really kind of done the migration over to PC about at the turn of the year, right around the beginning of this year. A lot of took a couple people, and I played since the beginning launch, but I was playing both, and the cross save really kind of helped obviously with that. But we basically are a PC based clan. We do still have some PS4 players. We still have a couple people that are Xbox, but for the most part we're PC. So if you're looking for good time, relax, chill, we do a lot of raids. Recently this season, I think there's been a lot more focus in our clan on PvP and getting folks different things like the recluse and other sort of objectives like legend and such. And we're definitely not a high end PvP clan necessarily, but there's some hardcores like Rob and Ray and Adavari and such. So we definitely try and help out pretty much in anything. And just it seems like recently the objectives have been more PvP focused in terms of getting some of the weaponry like Randy's and some others. But so just like you said, we do like to raid. We do tend to have these lull breaks as well, but trying to work on milestones and other sorts of things. But that's really kind of our story. And just as you guys know, just keep it chill. And we even if we're doing some raids, even this last raid, we've had some folks that it was kind of started off when I was first not feeling real well, so I didn't get into the later stages of our weeks. But we still like to try and do some raids, and even some older raids like Leviathan and Scourge of the Past and Last Wish. We still really love playing Last Wish. We haven't done some recently, but Last Wish tends to be our jam as well. Most recently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was going to mention all those things. So yeah, you guys see Clearnite in our Discord. You can hit them up for more details on that. But yeah, definitely a lot of good PvP players and raiding and stuff like that. So
Yep, no, definitely. I'm in a lot of different Discords, so definitely feel free. I'm in a lot of the Dead Tail guys and DRP and Guardian Hub, obviously, and Project Guardian and some others. So then JSG. So definitely, if you see me, just hit me up and we can hook up.
Awesome.
Swipe right.
Well, let's talk about what we've been working on in Destiny.
I was waiting for it.
Swipe right. Sin, I know you have accomplishments you've finished recently in the game.
Oh man, what did I finish recently?
Well, I don't think it was mentioned last time. I think it was with week, if I'm not mistaken, your title.
Yeah, so I finally finished the Undying title. I got that fairly recent. I've been finishing little stuff. We did a few menagerie runs that allowed me to get the final pieces to the collection for the Dreaming City. So you know how when you complete the entire collection for Titan, Hunter, and Warlock, it gives you that little yellow bar around the edge. So I got a few pieces that I needed for another class. I think it was Hunter that I missed a few pieces. Ran the menagerie on that character. Basically completed that collection badge. Man, what else?
How was that grind for the title? That was crazy, right?
It was awful. And I mean, it really wasn't that bad. For the little bit of time that I've been able to play, I mean, respectfully, I mean, I had to focus really on what was needed to be done in order to complete it. Like I had to focus strictly on strikes at the end part of it, just to complete Edgewise and the seasonal drop for the emblem and the shaders. That was really the longest part, I think, for me, was the strikes. And Gambit I got done pretty quick. Everything else I got done. Only thing that I'm a little sour about, and I know my RNG has typically been pretty good in the past with raid exotics, but I still have not gotten Monte Carlo.
Yeah, that's you will get it forever now.
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's like sometimes you get those drops, and sometimes it just takes a while to pull. I know. I joked beforehand that your raid RNG is interfering with your regular exotic RNG, because that's a tough one to not get. And you get ones like Anarchy first drop. You know what I mean? 1KV first drop. So I think you get payback for that.
Yeah, and I think it paid me back with the Osprey grind too.
Right,
for my Wayfarer title, because the Osprey took me forever. And I know Zer does not allow you to get the Monte Carlo.
Yeah.
Because, of course, I tried.
Right. Yeah.
I tried. And I was looking, because you were talking about some people over on the PC side of things in Hoot Dawg. And I was kind of thinking back before we started the podcast tonight, we were talking about Wenzel, and I saw that he finally got the Enlightened title for the Garden of Salvation raids, and noticed that he had over 50 clears alone in that raid already.
Yeah, Wenzel's been hardcore. Like Wenzel's one that joined up with Onyx right after the Garden of Salvation was dropped, so was representing Hoot up to that point, and definitely still a friend of the clan and such. But really, the Wenzel's objectives have been sort of like speed running and doing a lot of like just crazy stuff. And I'm not gonna plug too much, but like that's one of the reasons why I created a channel called "Check This Shit Out." Excuse the phrase, but that just was the best phrasing we could figure out. And it wasn't just for Wenzel, because anybody can kind of share, some YouTube and other sort of like cool moments. And the reason why I called it that is because Wenzel would send me stuff through a DM. It's like, check this out, look what I did. And I was like, dude, this is really cool. Why don't you just post this? So I was like, All right, let's do this. Same thing with D-Res. Like, D-Res, you got some really cool like kills and gambit stuff that you've been grinding. Why don't you just throw some stuff? So like it goes for anybody, but it's one of those moments like you want to basically, try and tout your stuff and just kind of show. And if anything, you start learning new techniques. One of the things I found out from Wenzel, really, especially with like, the previous raid, the Crown of Sorrows, that was one that you started, getting 3-mans and 2-mans and stuff and started going after it. And last time we talked, like that was one of the strategies you have to use for a lot of those things, helps out in the future raids. So, it was definitely a great resource for that stuff. So,
and I do want to mention really quick then now also, I want to give shout outs. Today I finally got my first clear on the Garden of Salvation raid, and I could have done it earlier, but I just hadn't put much of a priority with all this grinding for the title and stuff. But I had some people that I know from another group. I also want to shout out Dr. Luke and some friends over in a Parallel Worlds Discord. That's the name of theirs. And then we were looking for one more. I'm like, I'm going to hit up Wenzel. So Wenzel joined up as the 6th today. And boy, like I had a checkpoint for the 3rd part, but like one phase this, one phase the boss. Had it done in like 10 minutes.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, thanks. I felt like, sorry, I went so quick. Yep. Sorry, I didn't buy you dinner first.
It's one of the you're right. It's one of those things that once you get to. I mean, you've done this and felt this with other raids, right? It just seems like these newer ones takes a little longer to kind of get your feet underground and stuff. But like after a while, like Leviathan, when we first did it, it took a while, and then more recent years, you could do it in like 40 minutes. It's like same thing with Last Wish. Typically takes under an hour now. First couple times you do it, especially if you got a few new folks, it might take an hour and a half or so, 2 hours maybe. But like once you get to a certain sort of pattern and a rhythm and you've kind of gone through it, and especially when you have some folks who've done like 3 and 4-mans of things, like they just got some of the tricks that are really invaluable. So we haven't had a chance to hit up Wenzel to kind of join us as well to kind of get a few more folks to that, because that's always a good one to tap. So
yeah, so I want to thank you for that.
Well,
what have you been working on in the game Clearnite in Destiny when you've last played, or
it's
kind of interesting to you?
My last grind was probably the Festival of the Lost. I did all those grinds, and that kind of grinded me out a little bit. I did get the the werewolf, that gun, which I put in the vault and I was good with it, and that was probably it. I couldn't do a whole lot of. I would do the cookies and all that kind of, not cookies, the candy, and I would do all those sort of elements itself, but I was enjoying that. My focus recently has been more on like builds. So going to Shadowkeep, obviously with Armor 2.0, that's one of the areas that always was really interesting to me. So I'm not one that really kind of shoots after a power number, although that obviously climbs as you do, various milestones and such. And I'm not really much for the title grind, just because certain ones I can't do. I saw Undying, and I respect you guys for getting it, but just no way I'm going to play Vex Offensive that much. I just can't. Just literally, no, I can't. I just can't. So, no restriction for anybody who can. It's not a problem. It's just not my thing for the most part. I can do some things, but not over as much as that, especially with the competing bounties that you have on that, where you have to kind of like fight your team, to be honest, for a lot of that stuff. I just didn't have that ambition. But what I was focusing on was more builds. So, trying to get my discipline builds down so I could do grenades very quickly, partly for PvP, but also just in general. So I was able to get my Warlock down on an arc build down to like a 37-second reload grenade time frame. So pretty much a 10 on the on discipline. I was trying to do recovery as well, but discipline was the one I was focusing on. And then my Titan as well, I was really focusing on. So I think I got my Titan down to a 47. So been really just enjoying that. Did a few hunter builds as well. I pretty much have all my characters in parity, basically at like right now with the artifact at like 965 or 966, something like that. So last couple of weeks I haven't really kind of advanced them, but that's a couple of weeks ago. That was what my max light were on, most of those according to Dim. So that's really been my focus, is just enjoying certain weapons and builds. That's been kind of my focus. I know there's been a lot of discussion, which we'll probably get into with the season restarting, but in terms of like, progression and power numbers and things like that. But that's kind of been my jam. And I will say, especially, I didn't play this week's Iron Banner, but the previous two Iron Banners for this season. I maxed out and pretty much was looking for good builds and good skill point ones for that as well that I could use. So I was able to get that on all 3 characters, and my Hunter was my last Iron Banner that I was kind of accomplishing a little bit for. And that's how I pretty much got all my characters in parity. I would just basically go through all the Iron Banner bounties for each one of those characters and just boom, boom, boom. And whoever I did last was the one who got the highest like by the end of that round. So it's been that kind of a focus for me. So, and I will admit, you and I are both typically Warlock mains, but I will say as of Shadowkeep, I have pretty much been maining my Titan. I've just been enjoying Titan with Bubble and with Hammer a lot this season. I don't know what it is, but not that I don't enjoy my Warlock. I love my Arc build with Getaway Artists and things like that. I've been kind of doing in my Voidlock, but I don't know. There's something that just called to me this season with Titan, and especially with Bubble Bros, just being an old former Bubble Titan, loving that build, kind of focusing on that. And then with Scene 14 coming back, that kind of got me jazzed too. So I'll probably kind of go into the next season starting off with my Titan as well, and then my Warlock, and then Hunter in terms of order precedence. So it's been a little bit of a change of pace.
No, that makes sense. And I've been really tempted to move to Hunter myself. I'll never move to Titan. Just maybe I will. Hey, I've been meaning to ask you, I don't know if I ever did outside the podcast, but what do you think about the dungeon, the newest dungeon?
Oh, I love it. That was one of the things that when that came out, I've run it a few different times. I actually ran a few times the first week, and then I helped Ray and Rob do their Xenophage. I wasn't up to that point in my quest yet, but as with anything, I've done this with others. I did this with Shattered Throne too. I would help other people get their exotics or whatever for that, and so I love the look and feel of it. I would say it definitely is much more accessible. I think, but I like the mechanics a lot. So I think Shattered Throne probably has it in terms of an edge of Shattered Throne probably has an edge in terms of like feel and grittiness and sort of like mystique and just like fear factor, even though this is very spooky. I will say I enjoy this dungeon more for the mechanics. So I probably like this one a little bit more. It's a little more accessible. I like the mechanics of what you have to do. I like the way that they built up the mechanic of the symbols and having to, go in the various order of taking out the different, enemies and such, and then killing the main boss. But I definitely really enjoy it. And I think my favorite encounter is that, although I do like the callback to the King's Fall with the totems, that I forget what the encounter is called, but it reminded me of straight up from Totems when I first saw it. I was like, this is awesome. But the Ogre Hunt maze, that one freaks me out every time still when I go in there. I think the feel of that one with the invulnerable ogres still gets my adrenaline up, and it's even though I know it now, but I had a lot of time to explore that while Robin and Ray were trying to clear out that new boss that opens up in that secret area for that quest line. But so I used that occasion to sort of stay alive so I could res them so they could do it, and then I learned more of the maze itself at that point too. I would go back. So, but yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I think they knocked it out of the park. I mean, they usually do, but it's I will definitely say, I know the criticism was it's a little easy. I would say maybe it's more accessible. I wouldn't say it's necessarily easier. I just think it's a little more straightforward, and it's a little bit more less prone to mistakes. I think you can definitely make a few more mistakes and you're not penalized as much as you are in Shattered Throne. I had gone back with November and I think Rob Radvari, we were helping him get through some stuff, and we went back to the Shattered Throne, and going back after doing that other dungeon, and it definitely reminded me, it's especially not having played Shattered Throne in a little while, a couple months probably, it reminded me that definitely is a harder dungeon to go through. So, yeah. What'd you guys think of that the dungeon?
Well, yeah, I agree. The new one, the Pit of Heresies, amazing. Mm-hmm. I'd overall rated a little higher than Shattered Throne, just barely. Maybe just because it's newer, and maybe because I love Hive, and I love the idea of it being underground more so than Shattered Throne, where it feels a lot more open, if that makes sense. I love being like caves more.
Yeah, yeah. It has more of that spelunking and more of that. Maybe it's the spooky factor is a little bit more there, even though I feel a little bit more adrenaline anxiety when I play Shard Throne. Not that it's hard, it's just, because you're at heights, right? So if any little misstep, especially if you're going through like the upper areas where you can just fall and make a mistake, and then you have to restart that whole area again. That's one of those things that gives you a little anxiety. But yeah, it definitely is a cool effect. And Hive are just sweet and cool. So
right on. Well, unless there's anything else we've been chomping in the bit to talk about with what we have been working on, I think we should get into talking about what's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot.
Yes. This last week, we've had a release trailer, we've had a release stream, and we've had more info in the TWAB. Actually, it was funny. I was considering, has anyone seen Professor Broman's
Yes.
to...
Yeah, I saw it that day. It was awesome.
That was hilarious. Anyone should go back and watch that. I considered playing it on the podcast for us, but
Yep.
He's watching the podcast and he's like, "Whoa, oh really? Oh, I knew it." All these little reactions. Right. It's hilarious.
It's like, this is it. This is it. Yeah, it was really good.
Although true I kind of feel like everyone's like, "I knew that was coming. I told you," but like everyone was saying that. So if everyone's saying it, it's not that unique of a thing to say.
I guess, yeah. But you know how that works. You have somebody who thinks they saw something. I don't think it was data mined either. I think it's just people start to infer basically because of the dawn, the sun, they hear fire, and they kind of think of things, think of Mercury to some degree, although I don't think anybody would have necessarily thought Mercury per se. But I'd really find it hard to believe that people really thought Saint 14 was a thing just yet. I think Osiris was the assumption, or kind of like the thought, perhaps because of all those things. And right, maybe it's been a while since we've sort of rotated through the DLCs that way, and it seems like maybe that's the intent. I don't know, but I can't think that anybody would think that Saint 14 was coming back after everything I
think there was one though, right? Sin wasn't drunk. Okay, yeah, a lot of people were saying Osiris before, but didn't Drunk Destiny guess Saint 14 coming back?
I believe that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll have to go back and fact check that. No, I'm just kidding. But well, that is pretty cool. Okay. So let's just talk about what we know. It is going back on Mercury. And let's just talk about this now. We're having our sparrows again. I mean, again, we're getting our sparrows back.
It sounds sad to be excited about, but I was actually pretty excited about that.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, I remember reading the Shackle Shotgun News recaps of all the developers, always saying stuff like, "We hear the feedback about bringing sparrows to Mercury. It's something we're considering, but we'll let you know if there's more." Well, obviously they were working on it. It's just maybe they just didn't want to say anything until now, because they're kind of bringing Mercury back. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more in Mercury. There's going to be a 6-player match-made activity. There's even rumblings that we will see parts of the Mercury zone beforehand in a different look with, the pretty trees, the garden, everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely focus was put into Mercury, and it'll be interesting to see when we get there. But I'm just going to go over a couple things on their page, and then whatever you might have you want to add. But on Bungie's main page, we're going to learn about, we have a little quest where we turn back time, Saint 14, journey through time to save a legendary hero. So that's pretty cool. We don't know exactly what that entails. If it's going to be, it'll probably, even just regular quests, it's fine. I doubt it'll be cutscenes, but if it is, even a plus there. Mm-hmm. But it might be something more along of some lines from Osiris and Ghost and things like that talking, but we'll have a little couple quests where probably it's using some of the play spaces that we already have in Mercury in that Saint 14 tomb area and doing something there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a new 6-player match-made activity, the Sundial. I haven't seen too much. I don't know if they've showed us too much yet.
I think only really the stream, and even that they cut short because they want to try and. This was an interesting one, but they really didn't show a whole lot in the stream. I think they've been kind of accused in the past of showing too much. Maybe they went a little gun shy and they didn't show enough. Maybe that's a glass half full kind of thing. I've heard the contrary, like there's not much in this because that's why they didn't show anything. Like maybe, but I think they might also be trying to just keep things more secret. I don't know. It's not a bad thing.
It could be either way, yeah.
So it's hard to say.
Also referenced the whole meme about 2 tokens and a blue.
Yes, he really wanted to make a point of that.
I really laughed about that. I thought that was great. But I think they're taking the stance. I would rather them under promise and over deliver almost. I would rather them not show us a whole lot and then bring us back some surprises. They don't need to tell us everything that is coming.
Right.
It's just like I don't think anybody knew Altar of Sorrow was coming.
No, that was a complete surprise the way they did that. Yep, correct. That was awesome. Mm-hmm.
And I like the fact that they might throw in some things that aren't disclosed up front, because it does make the game a little more mysterious, and it makes things. We go into the game looking for something new to do, and then something new pops up randomly that nobody's expecting. I think that creates a awesome aspect to the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I have a prediction, and I think a couple of people said this too, but I have a feeling that Mercury might permanently change, might actually look this newer, different beforehand style, where there's at least the patrol zone is what I mean by that. What we're used to, it looking all barren. We might do something at the beginning, or it might be even at the end of the season, and it might look different. Who knows? We'll see on that.
Yeah,
that'd be kind of cool if it does change.
It would play a part to their whole changing world aspect that they're going for, and I'd be okay with that. Landscapes and or the real world changes all the time. So why not have the landscape inside the game change on an ongoing basis?
Oh, Ikora, making us kill the Undying Monk, causing all this havoc, and I guess the Red War changed or something like that. And
have you guys been keeping up on the daily posts of Bungie with the lore? They've been really interesting.
Yeah. I have not.
I've seen
They're definitely very, especially the last couple are really, today's was really good. Not to spoil it or anything, but it kind of goes into the bosses, who they are. So in the name, because you wouldn't necessarily know it, but if you check the names, like that name looks familiar. And I looked at the map, the road map. It's like, yep, sure enough, all those bosses that are the Sundial bosses are these 3 characters that are described today in today's lore, and it's Sunday, so 12/8. So if you looked at something called the Sisters, that's the post. It's a really interesting little bit of lore. So I've been loving that.
And I think they even mentioned at some point, without giving out the names or anything, but I'll just say it. But I thought they had mentioned something even before about like the Scions being involved.
Yeah,
is that what it is? Yeah.
You can look at the roadmap, and you can see the 3 different bosses are look like they're Scions and their sisters essentially. So that's what the lore today was. So there's 3 different hard to say, like Nerul, Olect. It's OZL ETC, so I don't know, like Ozlect. And then the last, another one is Tazrock, the Sun Eater, which is another one that's on the roadmap. So, and then there's another one, Inotam, which is another one further down. So I think there's a 4th in there as opposed to 3 sisters. So they didn't go into who the 4th one is yet. So
I mean, I'm down with that. The Scions are interesting part of the Cabal that, they're enslaved by the Cabal, but they have the powers, almost more like a warlocky type power to do things. So I think that their race is always pretty cool. Been pretty interesting.
Yeah, Cabal are interesting because as a battle faction, because you think of the big guys with the the turtles, right, the big armor and such, but then you kind of overlook that the Scions are part of that whole montage, and they're more, like you said, they're more the cerebral, they're more of the thoughtful ones, and it really shows in today's lore. Because there's some thought and predictions and stuff of that, and even kind of reference the Gaul and how he was like a puppet and stuff. So it's like interesting to kind of read through that. So it's a part of Cabal you don't think of. You think of like the Roman conquerors, the big guys that just come in and just start blasting stuff. But the Scions who lift you up and annoy the crap out of you by throwing you up in the Leviathan, they've actually got some pretty interesting background to them.
So on this 6-player matchmade activity, and I know. Can't expect, because obviously this is a season after an expansion, so hopefully no one was expecting huge amount of stuff, but at the same time I do hope it's not super small. So I would hope that the 6-player activity is at least bigger and better than Vex Offensive. And maybe somewhere between that and Menagerie is my hope,
That's what I kind of inferred. That was my notes on this one when I was kind of seeing and I freeze framed and kind of went back to look at the stream where they did show the first round, and they kind of got into the second round, but they didn't finish it. It looks like it's either at least a 3-round sort of activity, maybe more like Menagerie, because they're using the Menagerie progression bar in the left. So if you look at this section where, as you go through Menagerie, you can do a certain amount of sections, and the better you do, the faster you get through it. I don't know if they're using that progression, but at least the bar that they're using looks like that. So at least with that, you weren't just doing a timer. It was basically looking at like a progression. And it seemed to imply, based on what they're saying, is that there might be some changes because you're going through different portals. So it's not just the same room or the same 3 rooms. So I'm hoping, based on a lot of the lore that's coming out and some of the stuff and the fact that it's a sundial time machine, whatever you want to call it, essentially, that there's at least going to be at minimum a past, current, and future sort of state to some of the different activity encounters. That's my hope. Because at least the Infinite Forest had that, and even the adventures, right? The heroic adventures had the different sort of rotations that would happen there.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it will. I think that's a good point. It probably some heroic version also, like Menagerie had, because
yes, they have that. They said that they were coming out with a heroic.
Okay, good.
Or hard mode. It said hard mode, actually. So the non-hard mode was match made. The hard mode is not match made. So that's
I thought I heard that. Okay, good. I'm glad you can confirm that.
Deej mentioned that. Yep.
Even Menagerie, with it being a few seasons back, people are still running heroic these days because it has some value. It's kind of still fun to run it. So this could have some value down the road with having the hard mode.
Yep.
Okay. Any other notes you had on activity?
I basically put it out. It's a new landing zone is what they called the entry. So I'm kind of curious. It is match made, but they called it a new landing zone for entry to this. I wonder if it's similar to like an EP where the beginning of it, you actually start off or maybe like the Whisper Quest where you're starting off in a public area, but then when you go through the actual portal, it's a fire team based jump. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure if that was just them calling it a new landing zone just for the sake of calling it that, but they did say match made later. So there's got to be some way of jumping to that area, and maybe you just appear. So I'm kind of curious what they mean by that. So I'm kind of hoping that adds another landing zone is what they call it to Mercury, as opposed to just the one that they currently have. So. Yeah. And then they also just said fight your way to the sundial barrier champions and such that are activated when you go through each of the portals and you go into the new area to fight and defend. And it's a combination of portals times, sounds like. So, and the one other benefit is the boss evolves every week. So there is a new boss. Okay. I don't think they said weekly, but they said the boss changes. So we know that because of the timeline, right? So those Scions seem to be the bosses that are at the final stage, which they didn't want to show. They said, we'll show you the first activity or your first encounter, I should say, but we don't want to show you the boss activity. So they want to keep that secret. So we'll see. Maybe there's a different mechanic for each of them, but at least there's that alone makes it better than Vex Offensive, right? Like Vex Offensive, we were hoping there was going to be even the daily change on the altars, on the moon. You have a different boss every day at least. Something changes about the mechanic or something in there, like EP does. So I think that'll at least be a positive. Whether it's going to be as good as what we know of Menagerie, that's to be seen. But I think it'll at least be higher and more interesting than the Vex Offensive.
Yeah, that's good. And I saw that the barrier champions are obviously Cabal based now, at least within the Mercury or within this activity.
Yep.
Yeah. I wonder if they're going to put Cabal in the Nightfalls barrier champions.
I wonder if they do it; those become the ordeals. The Cabal based strikes. That's probably what it'll be, I bet.
Well, actually, I take that back. I'm silly. A lot of the champions in the strikes are just the actual Hive or whatever they are already, and they just have the thing
enhanced.
But, but we do know that I don't know if you have notes on this, but the weapons that'll get those mods have been changed. It's not the auto rifle and the SMG anymore, isn't it? Like a scout.
It's a scout, a pulse, and a linear fusion, I believe, is what I think I wrote down. I'll check my notes.
Pulse are so similar to me. It's too bad it's not like scout fusion or something. Yeah,
looks like they're putting a little more focus on scout sniper, bow, and linear, because the Guardian Angel was one of the mods I wrote down from the artifact that when they freeze framed, and basically the general health orb drops on precision kills with scout, sniper, bow, and linear, and a lot of the other stuff seems to be focusing on scout and linear fusion, even with their drop in. So it'd be interesting to see how much of that changes, but it looks like that's one thing that we knew was probably going to change. The barrier was going to change to a different weapon type, and I think that's what it seems like. It's going to be scout, sniper, bow, linear, and maybe I thought I wrote pulse down, but maybe I'm mistaken. So
I thought I saw pulse, but yeah, no, I don't remember either.
Yeah,
written this up. We know that the new artifact is called the Lantern of Osiris, and that's where our mods are going to be placed into, and that'll be the thing that, of course, will increase our power.
Yep.
It's our seasonal artifact.
And there's something called Charge with Light, which we don't know much about, because a lot of the fourth symbol, the Season of the Dawn, there's a shield break where you have a charged with light within quotes. So we'll kind of, extra damage, protective light, extra damage, resistant with light, etc. So that's another interesting thing that there's some concept of called Charge with Light, whatever that sort of is. So I'm wondering what that entails.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. And earn new weapons. Choose which weapons to earn by completing time lost weapon frames. So obviously something that's probably related to grinding the sundial. And I don't know if it's going to be like a forge type thing from what we remember back in Curse of Osiris, or something more like the moon where we're just kind of picking up little things. Do you have any other notes from the stream on that when they're talking about those weapons?
That's all they said, basically, is they just said that that you'll be able to. It did make it sound like more of a forge, because they use the term weapon frame, which is used in that, in the Ada's sort of bounties and quests and stuff. So perhaps it's the aspect of you pick what weapon frame, and then maybe they'll have something like the Lectern's emphasis or Menagerie's emphasis on what sort of weapon you get, or maybe it's just, that's what drops and you just kind of keep rolling for it. My guess is like you'll pick Scout or SMG frame, and then you just kind of do it like whatever you would do for Black Armory. Not the same mechanics, but just, the end result being the same.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm sure it's probably going to be, do X number of kills on this and do this and do so many of the sundials here, and maybe go out and do certain activities. It does look like they're changing it to do not do just purely strikes or lost sectors, etc., because they're changing the gunsmith's bounty so that you're not just getting credit for do this on strikes, do this on gambit, do this on PvP. It's just do activities. So I'm hoping they kind of carry that to the grind on the sundial as well.
Cool. And I see there's, I think, 2 new armor sets, probably one that's available to everyone, and then on the
yeah, they showed 2. One that's on the season pass.
One's on the season pass, yeah.
Yeah, and then one's on the normal, and I forget what they actually did call it. Let me look at my notes I posted on our Discord, but I know that they do have these 2 names to them, and both of them look amazing to me. One is definitely from the activity, and one is more just from, it looks like just, running things, more of the knight look, the Saint 14 sort of, knights in shining armor kind of look.
So for the Warlock, I actually prefer the one, I think the one that says it's free to all players just for running stuff, and that one looks like, I guess you could say it looks more plain. I do think the Titan and Hunter don't look as good on that one, but I like how the Warlock looks. But it's funny, the Saint 14 one, they all have kind of like horns on their head.
Yeah.
even the Warlock and the Hunter.
And at first when I saw the one still shot, I didn't look good, but then they showed other, the stream showed more of that armor, especially the Hunter looked really slick. It looked really cool, because they changed the shader too. Normally it's silver, but when they showed a couple of the some of the trailer stuff, and also in the stream, you saw them with some sort of gold shader as well. So that made it change a little bit. It had more of a goldish shimmer versus a silver shimmer to the armor set. So,
well, guess, especially with the horn on the head, guess what you will be seeing Sin do once rank 10. Guess what that is, Sin?
You're talking about the headbutting?
Yeah, the headbutting, seasonal rank 10.
Yeah.
Yes, I will be all in it for that.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll need to, and that's a finisher, so I don't know if I'll need to. I don't know if I'll need to rotate. Have a rotating finisher. I'll just do headbutts all the time.
Right.
Oh yeah, so we have rotating too, right?
Yeah, that's nice. Favorites.
Yes.
They called it favorites over to your favorites. Yeah, which is neat. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that way it kind of randomizes a little bit. I always like the I like the Belgian flying kick, so I always end up saying Van Damme every time I do it. Just required. But it'd be nice to kind of have a little bit of an alternate every once in a while. Yep.
Roadhouse.
All right. And then all the typical things like new triumphs, bounty, seasonal lore books. We have a couple exotic quests. Let me see here. They have a lot on the calendar too. Exotic quest Devil's Ruin and exotic quest Bastion. Now, Bastion, was that like a linear fusion rifle?
That's a fusion.
Or
just a pure fusion. Yep. Yeah, I actually was curious. At first, it looked like a pulse. It looked like a Vigiwing a little bit, but then when you, I forget which of the pages, or it was either the news page or one of them that basically said it was a fusion, pure fusion, and then the Devil's Ruin is a sidearm. Although one of the designers tweeted out that it's a game changer. So whatever, it's an exotic sidearm. So it's the first time we've had one since Trespasser, which was a pretty slick weapon. So I'm wondering if there's a different sort of feel or behavior to that sidearm, because the designer of the gun said it was something, I forget the term he used, but to me, I called it like a game changer. He called it something like, a change of life or something, because Miss Watts put it out. It's like, what is this? And somebody responded to her.
Well, I guess that's cool to try to finally get a sidearm going again, get some love to sidearms. We'll see if it actually ends up being that's the problem though, is like it's good. They definitely should be bringing out more exotics and exotic quests because that keeps things interesting. But in a way, I almost feel like we have too many. There's like, it's like, and it's a good problem. It's not a bad problem, but like, I want to try certain ones, but there's like already 10 to 15 really good ones that you never get around to trying the B level ones. You know what I mean? And let alone the C level ones that aren't so good. So.
Yeah. Though I will say, even though the last ones were from Shadowkeep or the Undying, Season of Undying were cool looking, they were definitely not real interesting to me, at least. I like bows, and I just did not like that bow. It was just way too slow for me to use, and I immediately infused it into my first one into my Whisper, so it was pretty much what I thought of that. And I hadn't gotten the Xenophage yet, because when I heard from everybody that it was like underperforming, and even Bungie admitted it, I'm like, well, I'll do it as I need to. But I didn't make a point of like trying to finish that portion of the quest, the secondary boss, after I helped Robin and Ray get theirs, but I haven't gone back to it. So it's underperforming, but they're going to change it. So hopefully the improvements that they listed in the recent news, Bungie news, will improve it enough that it's worth getting, but other than for just completionist sake. So I'm hoping for more from these. So
yeah, that's for sure. Well, cool. What other things do you have in your notes? I know there's probably a couple of things I might have missed. I'm not sure. I'm through this again. But it's
the rocket that they showed in the I think it was the trailer. I think it was the trailer they showed. Looked like it might have had tracking rockets or tracking clusters. I won't say Gjallarhorn, but like similar, more so than just cluster bomb. So I'm kind of curious of what that rocket is, if it was legendary or an exotic or something. But there was a rocket that Adavari actually noticed and said to me, "It's like, hey, did you see that? It has tracking clusters." It's like, I'm wondering. So I'm curious to see what that is. And I think that's basically it. And they did say the sundial failure is not possible. So it's a timed event that failure is not possible. So it's more like Menagerie in that sense.
Like that. Which is good.
So that's nice.
That's kind of how you have to do it when you're bringing in randos with a team of 6. 6-player match made activity. Which, oh boy, I have so many things I could say with that. I'm still hoping for 2 things in the game. I'm hoping for we can get a version of raids somewhere later in the year that are like, quote, easy or a new normal mode, and then bump up the other levels.
Mm-hmm.
Take away res tokens. Just bring it back so people can. There's so many people that are getting frustrated and not passing raids because of this issue of res tokens. And I get it. Some people will just say, get good, just practice. But I still think there should be a, quote, easy normal mode where you can have unlimited revives.
Yeah, I enjoyed the old D1 system with its normal. You had it, you were just a hindrance to your team, but you could still have some hero moments. And then hard mode, you had to have, well, in there, they didn't want to have you just sitting and waiting. I understand that. I don't necessarily need a mode where you're just sitting and waiting for the pass of the encounter like they did in D1, but maybe use the tokens in the hard mode there. So that would be my preference too. It's like to have the normal, maybe without it, or it's not as limited, or maybe it's not limited on time, or some kind of improvement to that to make it a little bit more accessible. And then the hard mode is like, that's where tokens come into play. So
yeah. And then I think if they do that, you could test, I know it sounds crazy, but you could maybe just with the have a auto match made. I know it sounds absurd, but an auto match made raid, on an easy version where if there's unlimited res tokens. Now, obviously, you should still have it if everyone dies, it wipes the encounter, but have it so that still, though, you don't have like one res token only per person, and then you can't do anything after that. I mean, even the 980 Nightfalls that are super hard, yeah, if you wipe, you go to orbit, but they still let you have unlimited res tokens. So I don't know why the raid can't have that on a normal version.
Yeah, but I think they just don't want to. They don't want to spend the time because what they used to do is they used to make the raid hardest, I think, and then they would downscale it to the normal, I think is usually their approach. And I guess they figured out maybe there's just not the return on investment from their side. Maybe it wasn't there. I don't know. Maybe. So I would like it though, but I think maybe from their side, they got to use their resources, more prudently from their side, especially now that they're in indie within quotes. Mm-hmm. So they don't have the two houses, which, that used to help supplement their staff. So I'm sure that's probably part of some of the slimming down of some of the things too.
Yeah. Well, I also bring up rating because the way I see this season going for me, and again, I was never expecting this to be big. When we look at year 3 of Destiny 1, we're already in a much better situation. Year 3 of Destiny 2, and also even year 2, the seasons after that were a lot smaller. Now, we did get 2 small raids, but this year we're paying less overall. I think I added up, like if you pay for everything the whole year at a time, we're generally paying $10 less for year 3 than we are for year 2. So we can't be expecting 2 small raids in there. Although I do hope there's at least one more small raid by the end of the year. Who knows?
I would like to see sometime this year, because I don't want to have like the Taken King where King's Fall was like the only thing for the entire year. I think that's why some people just stop raiding at that point. Like there's the diehards who still like King's Fall, and I like King's Fall. I think it's still probably one of my favorites, if not top 3 raids, but it's still one of those that was hard to get people to play after a certain point because they were just so burned out on King's Fall. So, I think they do need something, but I wasn't necessarily expecting it now, but I'm kind of hoping maybe the raid team will have something for like the spring, maybe not necessarily this season, but maybe like the spring or summer season. I'm hoping.
Yeah, maybe just one more, and then I'd be happy spring or summer.
Yeah.
Either that or at least make some of the older raids relevant again with drops like Last Wish on up, maybe. Or even Leviathan, who knows? But there's things that they can do without necessarily having to put in a lot of development time, even if they don't have time to do another raid. But I guess the point I was saying too is like, I see this for like mid to hardcore players this season. Potentially it could be a thing where I don't want to use the word like it's a bad thing, but like we could be kind of done a month in. And I know they're against things out to try to keep it interesting, but I want to set expectations for myself to not get too excited, because I do think this is going to be a smaller season. Obviously, we all know that. And I could see myself like a month in, okay, there's not too much to do unless I want to do all these grindy title things. So I hope people will start rating again. That's kind of my hope, to get the Garden of Salvation done. Not done yet. What do you think? I mean, if you're playing a lot and I could start playing some other games too. So it's always a hard mix. Like the people that are hardcore players are like, oh, this season may not have as much as I hope. What's really weird too? I've seen some streamers have been talking on Twitter and talking like, I'm going to take a small break this next season. I don't know if they're just burnt out, or if they're burnt out, they don't care what's in the season, or just because they're burnt out and they don't see a lot coming, so they figure they'll just kind of come back slowly when it.
Yeah, I don't know. The only time I've heard this from some folks that they're okay with taking like a break of a season, because then they can, when they do come back, let's say 6 months later, a little bit more hardcore, there's more to do. I kind of have that conversation off and on with a few folks, like Adavari, for example. I had the same thing. It's like he doesn't mind, but he's unsure about whether he's going to purchase this season because he's a college student and he's actually getting married next year, so he's trying to be a little frugal with his budgets and stuff. Even though it's like only still, like we joke, it's like it's like $10 or 30 or 40 for the year, but still it's still an investment. And especially if you're one that come back later to it, I could see maybe holding off. The only thing that makes me a little bit hesitant to do something like that per se. I do, the hooks come back into me and I end up playing a lot, at least for several weeks. Once I start playing it, the bug hits again. But I think because you're going to miss out on some things that are going to go away, I think that's a good strategy from Bungie to some degree. That, not to say that Vex Offensive was that, enticing necessarily, but some of the weapons weren't bad. Like there were some pretty good drops on both the Moon and on the Vex Offensive. I thought I have good, some SMGs, for example, from both, and some other weapons that aren't too bad. So, I would not like to miss, certain things. So
in case they're useful, they will come back eventually, supposedly, but probably not for a while. That's what I remember hearing. And so if they're useful soon, then you kind of want to start using those.
Yep. So it'll be interesting to see what they kind of do with that one. So, but I agree. I think it's a little premature. Some people have been kind of, negatively saying this is a Curse of Osiris 2.0. I'm like, I wouldn't go that far, because Curse of Osiris is really, our in D2 standards was probably like the lowest point of it. And it wasn't just because of the game. I got to remind people, it wasn't because of the game. It was because Bungie's transparency was at an all-time low, and they improved a ton since then. Before that sort of like January timeframe that led after Curse of Osiris, Bungie wasn't saying a whole lot at all. They were still, I think, really tightly underneath Activision's grip and maybe even just a little gun shy. So they really didn't say a whole lot. Once they got to that January, February timeframe where they started to open up right before Drifter, it's a completely different communication engine that started happening, I think, from them. So I think people have to be a little bit more optimistic, but, cautiously optimistic that it's going to be something to do. So I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely want to go so far as Curse of Osiris 2.0, but I'm just a little bit worried for myself. But again, I'm not ultimately worried, because always and during Curse of Osiris is the same thing. When there was nothing else to do, we would raid a lot. We would do Leviathan all the time,
right.
And I, everyone who's like, people like we were talking about the A-list raiders, they've already done the raid a lot, but now we're kind of I consider myself an A- B+ raider, and now we're getting to the point where everyone who hasn't passed it, if we get into this new season and we're like, month in and it's still fun, but there's not a lot to do, we can start raiding. And I did not like how this last season, everyone the Undying title to the last minute and no one wanted to raid because everyone was working on that. Yeah.
Well, that's even with us. I think in our clan in Hoot Dawg, there was a little bit less raiding that I think that happened this season, especially towards the last few weeks, because I think everybody was so focused on getting like Recluse and some of the other pinnacles, probably because of the pinnacle grind, but also just because there was some PvP focus. I think there was a little bit more of that where it was harder to kind of get a group together because everybody was sort of grinding their milestones. It wasn't as much title, but it was a lot more like weaponry and stuff. Maybe we were doing so much raiding before that we missed out on a lot of different sort of quests and stuff. So a lot of people were trying to get to that point. Maybe that's what the case is. But I agree. Maybe you get a little bit of a lull in this sort of season, or it's a little bit lighter, and that might encourage people to say, "Well, I've done everything but raid. Let me try and do that." We enjoy raiding, but not everybody is the same mindset necessarily. It's always like the last thing that they do, perhaps, even though it's not necessarily the pinnacle activity in terms of like the highest difficulty, because Nightfalls, to be honest, like with 980s and stuff, will probably even in terms of difficulty, are probably overall harder in some ways to complete, or a nightmare hunt or something like that at the ultimate level. But it's still getting people and 6 people together to do it versus a match made activity is always hard to coordinate people's schedules. So and it's the holidays too. I look at it this way: we have holidays coming up. It's not a bad thing to have a fairly lighter sort of open season. So, and we've got the Dawning, which we know nothing about right now. So
this season goes on, as we're recording this on a Sunday, and it comes out on Tuesday, December 10th, and it'll go through March 9th, I think, or something. It was early March, but kind of makes sense, that 3-month period again.
Yep.
So we also need to talk about, I forgot, the little PvP editions.
Mm-hmm.
Their elimination.
Rusted Lands.
Yeah, Rusted Lands. Excited for that soon.
Well, I'm excited they're changing up the maps a little bit. It's going to make it a little more fresh. I've had to do a lot more PvP recently for Randy's throwing knife, and grinding for that and going into comp. I think adding a new map is going to make it a little more fresh. And I think a lot of people were disappointed there was no Trials announcement, but that could be one of those things that they drop as a surprise when the season launches.
I don't get hopes up yet, people, because on one thing I read, unfortunately, again in the Shackle Shotgun News, developer in one of the notes wrote they were being kind of, the wording made me think like it's not even coming out next season either. I hate to say that, but Trials is still a little bit further down the road. I could be wrong, but
there's been some mention that it might be, like, even Luke kind of at some point had a passing remark about season 10, which would be the next season. A lot of people were kind of latching onto. A lot of folks maybe thought because of Osiris it was going to be this season. Think about it this way: most of this season is probably going to be dedicated for a few weeks of bringing back Saint 14, at least saving 14. Whether he's a permanent fixture after the season or not, it'll be interesting to see. But maybe he becomes sort of like the Trials guy. I was actually wondering about that because some of the voice lines and such, and Osiris is too busy, so they don't want to do Trials of Osiris. Maybe they'll do Trials of something else, or Trials of Saint 14 or something, maybe, because he was a Vanguard, he was a Vanguard lead, and basically he's a kick-ass character. So it'd be nice to have, like, you have Saladin for Iron Banner, you've got Shax for regular Crucible. Hey, why don't you have this new dude with the Russian accent be your Trials announcer? That would be awesome to me. That would be my hope, and that would be next season. Like you free Saint 14, and either at the end of the season or next season, more likely, maybe they can release some Trials of Osiris or Trials or whatever they're going to call it. So that's my hope. So I don't know if it's a prediction or not, but I could see it. I do think they do need to be a little bit more cognizant of the PvP, though, because even though it's nice to have one map, it's only one map, and it's a return map. So it would be nice to have, like, a new map and a return map. Like, I always like it when I've been hanging on this thing. Like, I want more strikes and I want more maps, because, to be honest with you, I need to see more variety in some of those other game modes and stuff. And especially if a PvPer who likes to play a lot, I don't play as much PvP because I get bored after a while. So I love Rusted Lands, one of my favorite. Rob will actually hate me for this, but I know he hated that map. But I've been saying for the last several seasons, like, I want Rusted Lands back. I want Rusted Lands back. So when I saw it came back, I was like, yes, it's back. I'm happy, but I want more maps. And I like the fact that they're bringing back some fixed maps or however they called it, and they're pulling out Equinox. So that was a good thing. I'm happy about that.
It's such a good point, because these things that we do, no matter what the new content is, there's always Strikes, Gambit, and Crucible. And if you're going to keep those things going all the time, you do need to have an occasional new strike and occasional new maps to keep it interesting. That's one reason why we've all gotten kind of like, and Crucible is a little bit different because that's always variable playing against other people. However, still having new maps helps, and Strikes certainly could use some new there. And who knows with Gambit what they're going to do there. But it'd be nice to have some variety.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then the last thing they came out with, they talked about the power level and what's going to happen. There'd been a lot of people wondering, pretty much everyone assumed it was going to go up until at the last minute. There were some rumors going around saying, like, oh, it might not go up at all. Well, they kind of took a middle ground approach where it's going up, but just a little teensy bit. And let's just talk about what that means at first. Now, of course, we all know the artifact, because they told us ahead of time, is resetting. So plus that we have artifact, let's say our base was, let's just say we didn't grind out any pinnacles and our base is 950 and our artifact gave us like a plus 14. Then what that means is we would back down to 950 and then we can start grinding our artifact again. But also they're bringing that base up with drops. Some people call it the soft cap, or you can call it the powerful cap. That'll go up to 960 now, and then the pinnacle is going up to 970. Kind of a 10 power level increase. I feel like personally, since they brought the artifact thing, it's a good thing and a bad thing. These power levels going kind of like up and down and going by small amounts or large amounts is getting a little problematic. I don't personally know which way is best. Some have pluses and minuses either ways, but I'll tell you this, like, I feel personally what they did might have been the best situation based on everything, but at the same time, only going up 10, a lot of people are going to grind that out in like a week or two for the powerful cap, right?
Yeah, right. That won't take them long.
That's fine or whatever. And then maybe the thought is, okay, who cares? It's more about the pinnacle cap. that's fine too. But then only going up by 10, hopefully there's going to be enough activities to do that. Hopefully it'll be worth it. It's just weird to know, like, should we be spending time on Pinnacle or should we be spending time on Artifact? If you get what I'm saying. Because they both kind of bring it. I don't know, thoughts, Sin or Clearnite, on what they're doing at the power level? Or any way you think it could be better, or you think this is probably the best, what they've done?
I think them giving a little something up front for the season is nice. Typically, they've been raising, when they raise the power level, it's been a significant increase.
Yeah, it was always 50 per season last year.
Right.
Last year, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I thought they were going to do more tying it with the artifact, which would play more into, as we discussed before, the Diablo-like seasonal changes, where in Diablo, they change you go back to 0 in your character, you grind all the way up.
Right.
By removing the artifact and giving a new artifact each season, it kind of creates artificially that grind each season and kind of like a meaningful grind because you're grinding for something in particular. In the case that they've made it with the artifact, you're grinding for the mod system, you're grinding for an increased level cap, almost like you're increasing a Paragon level then at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I think at that point now they're doing a small increase over what is there now. It'll make things that are still available from the beginning part of Shadowkeep continuing on. Obviously, we're going to be losing some of the Vex Offensive, the title stuff, some of that. But anything that still remains that has like a powerful cap of 980 will become a little more easy, or a little more easier, with that small incremental increase plus the increase that we get from the artifact once we grind that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, my kind of take on it is this. It's just a number. Like back in D1, we would advance only by like 5 and 10. So like, D2 has been more traditional, jump by 25, 50, whatever it is last year, 50 each time, right? To me, it's just a number, and how you get to that number. Like if you're jumping up by like 10 in 1 week, what does it matter between 50 and 10? Like if you're jumping every like week by like 15, you're going to get there within a week. If it still takes you the same amount of time to get there to 10 increase, what does it matter? Like to me, the numbers isn't really the important thing. Some people can fixate on it. Mine is like, what activities are you going to be doing, right? Like what would normally happen to you every season? Like, all right, you used to be the max light. Now you're no longer the max light because everybody basically can get to that max light very easily now, right? So my time was lost. Like, no, because you had fun. You did your thing. This happened every time since day one of Destiny 1. Like, there's always the same grind that happens. And if you choose to wait till later, especially in the last year, that's what those power boosts, were. So it's really, to me, relative. Like visually, if you look at it, you're not doing anything different. It's just a number, what the label is. It's just what activity you're doing. You're going to do your activities. You're going to get to a power cap fairly quickly, within a few days to a week, depending on how hardcore, maybe most people within a day or two. Same thing that happened this season. And then the Pinnacle grind was very difficult that they adjusted. So they made it a little bit easier. It was maybe a little oppressive, actually, the very beginning of it. And then they enhanced it. But to me, it's like, it's just a number. Like, what activities are you going to be doing? You're doing the same thing. Like, and the people who are behind a season, they would do power surges now. Like that's traditional, the pattern, right? Since like, the Drifter introduced the power bounties, where you're like, okay, now you're leveled up to at least the minimum of this, this particular season. So everybody who max lighted to that, did they waste their time? I don't think they did, So like, I don't understand the argument. I've heard that so much this week. Like, oh, all my time was wasted. I'm like, what time? This is Destiny. This is what we do. This is what we play. Focus on what, the fun that you're having. I just don't get it. So, and it's like, what does it matter? You could call it foo, goo, and who, it doesn't matter what the level number is. It's like, you're still doing the same thing and how much time you're putting into it. So I don't know.
For even people that felt that way, they should have known better, because we did know the artifact was going to be resetting.
Yeah.
I've been telling people too, like, no matter if the power level is going up or down, it feels like doing Pinnacles at the end of the season is probably less worth it than the beginning, because we know something's going to reset somewhat. So like, I do find it a little odd that for a week or two, until we can get some power level up, that the Nightfalls and the raid will get harder.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
was thinking that actually. I was thinking like, it reset a little bit in that sense because the hard 980, right? 980, I think it is the nightmare, or the nightmare and the nightfall, the hardest heroic or whatever master, and so it will be hard the first week to grind those, but hey, maybe that's the way it should be. That should be the challenge again. Like that's the thing when you go and you're doing the strike grind, for example, and you're constantly doing strikes and strikes and strikes and strikes, and then somebody goes, "Hey, you want to join me for Nightfall?" And you jump into it, and you're like, "Holy crap, why am I dying so much?" Like, "Oh, right, I'm in a Nightfall. It's supposed to be harder." Like beginning of the season, where we complain that there's not enough challenge, and then it gets harder. So why is that a problem? I don't know. You're right. And I was thinking that this week, like it'll probably be actually kind of hard to get, except for people who want to complete the raid. It's probably gonna be hard to get a raid together right before the beginning of the season because most of the time people are going to say, well, I'll get it in. It's like, actually, this is the best time to do it because next week it's going to be harder. You know what I mean? So it's funny because ironically, I got less bites and when I suggested a few things, like, it's all right. And I wasn't really pushing it because as I talked about, I was kind of like on my own little break, except for maybe a raid would come up, I'd join in. But for the most part, that was the last thing I did in the last couple of weeks was just join in a couple raids, But I don't know. It just, people are funny. Like, just remember history. It's the same old, just whatever the name is. It's the same activity you're doing. Like, and the fact that the artifact resets, this is their whole point of them trying out new mods and stuff. Like, the Thunderstruck or whatever it was called. Like, that was crazy. Maybe we won't have that next season because they realized, oh crap, that was OP. Let's fix it. So I'm hoping to see more of that kind of adventurous experimentation by Bungie on the artifact side of things. So that's what I'm
the
hoping
artifact
for.
is good. I do like. I love the mods and the power level increase. It's fine. I think it's going to make less sense later in the year. They make like 1,000 Nightfall. Who knows? But eventually it's going to get to the point where people are like, okay, once I get my 100 levels, like, what's the reason to get another +1 on our artifact? Because we know it's going to reset in a month or a few weeks or whatever. That's probably the most, in a way, cool, but also problematic aspect of these. Power level grind.
That's the other thing most people aren't talking about is the season pass or the battle pass system where you're getting rewards at each so many levels. They did specifically say, we're going to see how fast people get to 100 or whatever, and we'll adjust and tweak it and we'll get feedback and things like that. So maybe not this season because it takes them like a season to get the previous, or current season's feedback in. But, so I don't expect a big change to the leveling system there this season, but maybe in season 10, there'll be some improvements, like when does an exotic drop, or maybe not have mats, but have something else, or, for the free and the paid version tracks. So it's interesting to kind of see what they do with that too, and to play with it. Cause it's like, revisions.
Yep. And then another thing I just thought of just right now is discussing, kind of makes sense that obviously at the beginning of the season, we'll want to be doing activities for a few reasons, because they're new and they're fun and they'll help us get back up to our power level. And then later on in the season, we can start doing the Master Nightfalls and the raids again when we have a higher light level.
Yep.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting. It's certainly different. I mean, it's weird in a way that it only went up 10, but again, I think like it would have been problematic maybe going up to 50 and problematic not going up at all. So this in a way might have been the best of both worlds. How they're doing it, and time will tell. We'll check it out and we'll see.
Yeah.
So, well, cool. What? Any other new things about Season of Dawn I might have missed that either of you want to bring up?
I don't think so. I mean, I like the changes they made to EP as well, escalation protocol, that they got rid of the key system that the waves have. I went back to play that because I still actually enjoy EP every once in a while. I'm doing like, doing my Mars grind, for different things. I'll usually join in, and sometimes that helps with the grind. That's a good grinder actually. So I'll do that, and sometimes you get caught up like, hey, I'm doing my grind, I'm killing Thrall or whatever for a quest or a level up or whatever, and then other people start joining in. It's like, look, I'm in level 5 now, I'm in wave 6. What the heck, let's complete it. And then you don't get the stupid armor. So I'm kind of happy that they got rid of that key, because you didn't go back to Mara or Bray and go and get her her key or whatever. So I'm glad that they got rid of it, and because that armor set's pretty cool looking still. And I had it on PS4, but when the cross save, I chose my PC character, and so I didn't have a lot of those older pieces that I had, for granted on PS4 originally. So it's kind of nice to kind of go back every once in a while and pick up some of that armor. So especially if it's mod, especially if it's 2.0. So I'm kind of glad that they made that change, because I was getting annoyed with and they got rid of the limitation of one per week, so you just keep getting it, which is nice. So that's an improvement.
Yeah, that is definitely a nice change.
Yeah, we should go back and do some of that again. I still need to get my what's the exotic sword you have to hit each boss with, or something.
I don't have it on PC. Yeah, I had it on PS4, but I didn't have it on PC. So it's like, I never went back to get that one. Like all those element, secret shots you had to do.
It's not masterworked yet. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even do it on PC. I was like, I do these when I do it, but it's like I grinded it so hard on PS4. I'm like, I just didn't have the ambition to go back and do it on PC originally. So.
Yeah. Well, cool. And we've already talked about this. The solar changes come up, so it'll be a fair amount of stuff to at least play with it first. Now, I don't think, there's some rumors that we'll get Sparrows, maybe Sparrow Racing, but I would have to say let's probably guess no. And if it does, that'll be certainly a nice surprise.
Yeah.
Sparrow Racing coming.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
I mean, they showed the Sparrows in this one picture, but like big whoop, I mean, it's just a picture of Christmas.
But it's a picture of last year's and this year's. That's all.
So now,
some people like to read into it too much,
I know. Well, because wasn't it though in D1 or at some point?
It was
during the Christmas time, right?
It was. I guess there's some, but everybody kind of keeps saying that every year. They've been saying Azrael's coming back. I'm like, there's no even in Christopher Cyrus they were saying it. Like, no, it's not. They said they're not coming back with that. It's not something they want to do. Like they kind of said that through different tweets.
I don't remember that.
There were some tweets that said they never expect Azrael coming back, and it wasn't Luke. But it was like it was certain designers and stuff. Like, no, we're not bringing it back. So I mean, somebody could change their mind. Like Luke could say, hey, Azrael's a big focus, so we're going to change it. But generally speaking, I don't think that's not their focus right now. So. I mean, I enjoyed it. I liked it because it had some really cool shaders, and the some of the sparrows would be kind of fun doing. Can you imagine doing a little mini sparrow on that damn thing? It'd be pretty fun.
And the
crazy, and then the big hogs that the ones that you ride like bikes, basically. That would be kind of cool. But that's just not the game that they built for D2, unfortunately. So I mean, I'll stand corrected if it changes, but people read into too much. Like they read into the fact that there wasn't a light improvement because they didn't, or increase because they didn't say it specifically until the TWAB. Like don't read into it until they say yes or no. Like don't assume, oh, there's a picture of last year's and this year's Sparrow. That means racing. Like, come on, guys. Hopeful thinking, but come on.
Yeah, probably not.
That's us though. That's the Destiny community. We get passionate about topics and personal things. So.
Well, it's always interesting. Like you never know sometimes how passionate people feel about it. Like it's hard to read people. I mean, this is just a meta discussion, but like I would hope to, but I'm not expecting, and I wouldn't be super disappointed if it doesn't come. Right. But sometimes you read online, they're like, oh, they better bring it back. And that doesn't, maybe they mean like they better bring it back or I'm quitting the game. Or it could just mean like they better bring it back or I'll just be slightly disappointed. I mean, you never know.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy. But I think overall, this should be a pretty good, smaller season. Things to do. And even if a little bit in, there's less things to do, that is okay. We will check out other games or we will check out raiding or PvP. I can always hop more to PvP too.
And to Zin's point earlier, like there are certain things we didn't even know about last season, like the altar changes, the event on Mars where, on the moon where, they changed around the nightmare stuff in terms of the, the altars of sorrow and all that kind of stuff. They pretty much have said there's a lot of secrets that they just don't want to reveal all the time. So I'm not expecting, let's say, a dungeon because they kind of started to show that when they're going to do a dungeon, although it'd be kind of nice to have another hidden quest. But, it's still, it'd be nice to have a little bit of surprise too, and not to know everything that the data miners can find.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, I was thinking we might do this a little bit different tonight because actually, I don't know. You were earlier on in our podcast run. Did we ever ask you what your favorite dessert was? I'm trying to remember if we started that after you. Or...
I think you started that afterwards, if I remember, because I remember we were joking about it, and I'm going to give the answer that Sin's going to probably laugh.
Okay, well, you can answer that too, but I also just kind of wanted to talk. We'll give you a bonus one too. Like, have you had any good beers lately or any good drinks?
Yes, actually, funny enough, one that I would never expect. So dessert-wise, it actually is tiramisu. Funny enough,
Oh,
I know that's
Nice.
always the running gag, but that is actually one of my favorites. I like all desserts, so I can't necessarily always say one, but I will say I make a mean tiramisu by heart actually that I can do. So I do enjoy different tiramisus, but that is one of my favorites, if not my favorite.
it's good. I mean, yeah, I like it
Although
too.
ice cream always kind of goes up there too, so any kind of ice cream. But and speaking of ice cream, the last beer I just had, my wife, we have a couple different things that we've been getting for the holidays for some relatives and especially some nephews and nieces who are now of age. So she's having fun kind of building little baskets for them and just giving them a variety of stuff. And the one that I had yesterday, which I would normally not gravitate towards, although I like IPAs and I like ales and I like stouts. Stouts still be one of my my favorite things like Guinness and Murphy's and stuff. But she gave me it was called fried ice cream stout actually. That was actually pretty amazing. It was like I wouldn't say it tasted like fried ice cream, but it was a really good dark stout. It actually almost tasted like a Scotch ale, if you know that flavor texture. It's a little heavier, a little sweeter, but it was definitely a dessert style type beer, but it was very good. I forget the brand or the brewer company, but it was called it was fried ice cream stout, which was amazing. So, and I went into it with low expectations.
Yeah, some of those, like I've had like peanut butter milk stout that's really good, and
DeClaws has a good one of that. I know that's up Sin's territory down there in Maryland area. DeClaws, I think it's Sweet Baby Jesus. That's a good one. It's actually a peanut butter. It's a peanut butter. I think it's a porter actually, not a stout, but I think it's a pretty good one. It's a little sweet for my taste.
Baby Jesus is pretty good. Not gonna lie,
it is pretty good. Yes.
Baby Jesus.
Yes.
Oh, that's something to look forward to. Some of those I never heard of it. I mean, ice cream, milk stouts or whatever. But
yeah, I mean, one of my favorites is actually the Founders Brewing Company has a breakfast stout, which is it's amazing because it actually is very tasty. It's a little bit of coffee flavoring to it, although not added. It's actually, I think, part of the process versus added afterwards. But it has a little baby on the front eating like oatmeal, so it's like a really cute look, almost like a Gerber baby style look to the label. And Founders Company has some really good beers, but the breakfast stout is actually excellent. I do enjoy that. It's one of my recent favorite stouts that I've been drinking.
Nice. Drinking it for breakfast.
I always laugh about that, but yeah.
I know, that's funny. Excellent. Well, yeah, some good talk about Destiny and some of our desserts and drinks that we like. It's always a fun time.
Yep.
Oh man, well, it's certainly been a pleasure having you on again this week for our episode. Let me see. I'm trying to remember what episode it was when you originally. I know it was early on in our process of our podcast history.
I normally look, but I didn't get a chance to do so this time. I apologize. Yeah, I know it was like probably like in the first 5, probably, if I recall.
Right now,
I can tell you here in just one moment.
It is episode 4.
Got it. Within the top 5.
Yeah.
No, I definitely appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah. Good to talk about. I mean, anyone who listens back to, I don't know if you guys still have it on the catalog, but like Sin and I have been reoccurring guests on Hoot Dawg Radio in the past. So if you guys want to check that out.
Yeah, no, you definitely go back. We still have those. I mean, sometimes I know that the pod systems, they sort of limit which ones they show you for the first, like, because we're up to, what did we hit the other day? We hit, I should know this up by heart, actually. I think we hit 58 or 59 recently. And, we hit 50 at the beginning of the year, and we had one that was a lost episode that kind of had some issues in publishing that Sin was actually, I think, the last one that you were on. I think we were doing the live show we did, and we had Adavari, myself, you, Sin, and Gunbait, and that was one that was lost to the wind, unfortunately. And after that, I think we've had like 8 or 9 after that. So, yep.
Yeah.
I want to say really quick, in the tower, there was someone named Eris Morn's Thick Thighs. It's funny seeing the names of people.
I love the Battle.net names, and I am loving the Steam names. They get a little crazy, but...
What was the one we saw in the moon earlier? It was right before we...
Yeah, you mentioned it, but I forget now. Yeah, I mean, there's so many unique names. Someone just had a heart only, like... I guess you can do ASCII art and stuff, all sorts of interesting things. I tried doing that. I have a generator online that can do upside down text, and then I tried entering it in the Steam, and the font wasn't the same, so it didn't quite look like it was supposed to.
Right.
But there's some unique things you can come up with for sure.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. It is always an experience to see a whole bunch of them. And it's funniest ones I've seen are where you'll see a group of people together and you can see that they're together because their names are similar. Like, this cat's green and this cat's black or something, something more interesting than that. But just as an example, you see a few people where it's like, my mother's, symbol and my mother's symbol or something like that. It's like, all right, they're together. At least it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Get some creative juices. So, at least they still do, lock down on some of the more, colorful ones, of course, but at least they give some luxury to some iconography. Although I do not like the fact that there's some that just have just icons. Those annoy the crap out of me. It's like, make them do something in there.
Like all weird random stuff, yeah.
Yeah, like gun fusion, because you could do the Destiny art in there too. You can put it in there if you mess with the config file, and you have like fusion rifle, AR, and pistol, and the name. It's like, come on, dude, it's hard to see. It's like, give me a break.
Oh, I did want to mention really quick too, because I think you knew, but I've been talking about this. But I got the AMD 5700 card a little while ago.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Thoroughly enjoying that. I ended up getting the aftermarket MSI version that had a slight overclock and two big fans on it. So I could figure that'd be good to run it with a little more cooling. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, okay, now I got my good card. I got to finally upgrade my monitor. So I finally did that. And it is so much better because I don't know if you remember, but I've had issues in the past with I feel like my VSync is all messed up and things are all weird. And it's finally perfect. It must have just been was crap before, but I got a 144 Hz 1440p with FreeSync. So nice. It's smooth as butter now.
Yeah, that's one of the things on my Christmas list because budgets and stuff. It's kind of hard to justify a new monitor, especially when I'm also looking for a new house in the next year. So, trying to keep everything fairly tight that way. So I still have an old 1080 ViewSonic 60 hertz one, and so I'm not getting full advantage of everything. Although my brother was going to lend me one of his old ones because mine's starting to die actually, which was a great excuse to have to put on my Christmas list as getting a new one, new 144 or something.
You should get this one. It's like 250, and it's normally so it's
nice. I think I saw you posted in Discord. So I think there's a couple that are there's an Asus, there's a BenQ, and then there's a ViewSonic. That's another one that I have on my list. So depending on how many Amazon gift cards I get for the holiday season, that might get me something sometime in the beginning of the year, so that I can take full advantage. But I do love that card. I mean, I got a major bang out of my buck, especially even though I could run a dual PC setup for streaming. The biggest improvement I think I've seen besides just the game itself, Destiny runs great on any card, but it makes it even better when you're streaming it. You're not hitting any hitches and such. So it's one of those things. And then other games, when I just launch like Jedi, it's nice just launching and saying, Ultra, cool. I don't have to do anything. It was just full Ultra. So, it's kind of nice.
Cool. Yeah, it's kind of fun. I think I'm done though. I mean, yeah, you're right. Those are things. Everything else is I have a really good solid state, fast thing. But those are the two things I was like, I'll get around. And I had a goal to have them both done by the end of the year. Able to meet that goal with some sales. So
there you go. Yep. Yeah, monitor's my last thing on my list because I'm always looking for additional hard drive space because I've got terabytes of stuff that I do, and a lot of them are obviously now I play more on SSD on most things. Although some of the older games I still have on my older hybrid drives, but I still have a lot of media on some big old drives that as I see these sales, I do try and add more drives as I can. So it's the nice thing about it's good and bad of these sales that happen. So.
Yep. And who knows when we find out more about PS5. I mean, I'm still down to consider buying it, even though I'm a PC player now too. I still love consoles for other reasons. Price is right, if the specs look good. I mean,
couch gaming is nice. I mean, I will say strangely enough, I'm probably more excited for the Xbox Series next year, which is unusual because I used to be a 360 boy, so I was more into that, and I would start at PS1 and then PS2 and then Xbox and 360. And I kind of skipped most of the PS3 until the very end because I had the 360. And then when the Xbox One was just totally flopped badly, what they were trying to do with that, I went PS4. So I'm an equal opportunity gadget whore, so I'm good with any of them. But I'm actually more excited
with equal opportunity offender.
Yes, exactly. So I tend to be one. I mean, I actually did get one of the Stadias, and I tend to try new things when I get anything that kind of comes out. So it's a little hard to justify some of the new consoles to some degree, although that one was just for interesting to see during travel. But I'm actually curious to see what Microsoft's doing more with the xCloud type stuff that they're doing, and they have some pretty enticing deals. In terms of the pricing model of subscription model of consoles, which is an interesting different take. So that might be the way I go. We'll see if I do anything.
Oh, I'm sorry to keep this running long. And I think I remember hearing you on another one. I mean, I'm sorry to send the editing part, but so many good discussions.
We'll fix it in post-production.
I know, right?
Not this week.
Sin, don't edit it at all. We're fine. Just put up the music and yeah.
This will probably be one of the shortest edits ever because normally we record much earlier. Right now we're recording Sunday, typically the night that I try to get it released by or get it edited by. So it is going to be one of the shortest production to release schedules ever.
But how's your Stadia?
I mean, I actually did more of it with the web browser. So I haven't really played much with the device itself, to be honest. But I do. It is a cool feeling to be able to launch a web browser and have Destiny come up. That's actually really cool. And I would say the first week I had some pretty good behavior. I mean, I wasn't there day one because, I was a little frustrated, and I kind of talked about this in the last show that we had, but I was frustrated with how Google launched it. They did a very poor job of the actual launch mechanic because I didn't actually get my code until the Friday after, and I didn't get my device until after that. Luckily, I'm better off than Wenzel because Wenzel got the device and without the code, which I found unacceptable completely. Like, how do you not have an email code that the device in your hands can't use?
Right.
But I launched it actually at work, and because I had, funny enough, a couple weeks back I forgot about Zur, and I just was one of those weekends I was away and such, and I was able to launch up and load up, and I did a little bit of patrols and a few strikes, and it was fine. I mean, I will say I hadn't tried to launch up PvP because when I did try and launch it, it was taking a very, very long time. And this is coming from, the days of PC where a lot of people weren't on PC Destiny, and it took a while to match make. But that was probably my biggest problem is there's just not enough of a population. I think they really need to expand it to another console platform or PC to be able to play with because there's just not enough.
Because NVIDIA now is with the full PC group because it's really just you log into your Steam account and then it's there. So I guess maybe one rumor is they keeping it smaller. They can have better latency in it. Maybe
could be.
Knows with their own
it
cloud.
Could be. But I mean, the only thing I will say about it is it was gorgeous to see. My other complaint was that the field of view was console. So the one thing I noticed immediately was, and not knocking consoles, I'm not 100% PC Master Race. I appreciate all the things, but even though I got used to it, but not having a slider,
nice having that field of view. Yeah.
If I'm on a PC, I'm in a web browser. It's kind of nice to actually have a field of vision. So it's better looking, I think, probably than most of the consoles in terms of what you're getting, because you're getting a really beautiful, colorful, tight screen. But the fact that you couldn't change field of view was really a tough one. So.
And was your response time pretty good? I mean, I understand.
It was fine actually that way. Like I actually didn't see any. I mean, slightest of input lag, which if you had a slower computer or even like a dirty mouse, if you will, it wasn't even such that you would. It's not even. It's hard to say. Like you couldn't even visualize it. It just didn't feel on point. But it was good. It just was not. It's like Destiny's so good on PC and even on console, but like on PC, it's so smooth as butter that you get spoiled. So if I was going from console to it, it wouldn't be as bad. Because when sometimes you have the PS4 original and the Xbox and you'd have some like EP would get really laggy and really choppy and stuff at times just because it was chugging along, especially if you don't have an SSD. It was way better than that. So actually it's better in that sense. But if you're used to a really high, streamlined PC, mouse or controller experience, that's where I think it comes up short. So. And I can't say for PvP yet because, like I said, I kind of lost my patience with trying to do it, and I didn't have a lot of time to really too much. But it's a cool concept, and I'm just hoping that it shows a little bit of the flavor of the future. So
yeah, no, that's true.
Loading up Chrome is cool to see it in Chrome. It's really neat. So
yeah, for sure. If they can maybe expand the audience, and a little concerned about like if you start playing it a lot, how much data it takes if you're not on unlimited plan or something like that.
That would be interesting too, yeah, because I don't have to worry about that. But that is one of those things. And I've actually heard from others that travel that say, I was on a LAN connection, but supposedly it's actually better when they're in more of a lower end because it's able to compensate for that better. So that's encouraging. I can't really say positive, negative on that because I didn't get a chance to travel with it yet. But maybe sometime upcoming holiday season, I might try it out when I go to my in-laws who have lesser internet. So I may try it out there just to compare what my PC would look like versus what Stadia is. But so
yeah, it's interesting.
So, yep.
Well, we better call this a night. Great conversation tonight. We always appreciate it. And we will have you on again sometime in the future again.
Yep. So. Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, sorry, Sin. I know we went to keep. I feel for you. I spend time doing our own editing, and it's like depending on hopefully it's a nice clean cut. So I tried to mute myself when I was coughing and stuff.
Fine.
I do the same. I mute myself all the time, but
yeah,
it's all good.
Yeah, but we don't have any housekeeping, so it'll be quick to close this up here, but no new reviews or anything. But as always, listeners, if you would leave us a review on iTunes, it helps us get found, and we will read your review on the air. And feel free and join our Discord because it's a great place to find other people to play with and have fun discussions about Destiny. With that being said, Clearnite, do you have any contact information you'd like to give the listeners?
Sure, thank you. And again, thanks for having me on. And I'll give you guys some nice credit. You've had some really great guests on, so I do feel honored for being brought back on. You've had some good, high-quality guests recently, so you've been happy for your success that you've been kind of knocking out real nice episodes. And the Discord is very active, so definitely props to you guys for that. It's not easy. But
it's not easy being green.
No, it's not. So, but if you want to find me, I am Clearnite, pretty much on any network itself, even Stadia as Clearnite, and Steam as well as all those other networks. The only place I am not Clearnite, I am Clearnite_ on Twitter, and I'm also co-host on Hoot Dawg Radio, and you can find all our information on hootdawgradio.com itself, and we have our links to our Discord and our Twitch and other sort of spots as well, and anything else that we kind of have going. So, if you're looking for a good PC community, chill, and looking for something to hang, you're definitely welcome. I mean, even if you're not PC, but we've been, like I said, primarily more recently PC focused. But come on, join in, even join the discussion. No pressure.
Yeah,
all the pressure.
All right, Sin, where can people find you?
You can find me typically once a week streaming on twitch.tv/SynMedia. Sin is CYN. And over on Twitter at Sin_media. Don't forget to check me out over at Destiny Digest on Thursdays. We get down low and hit that twab. Kingsley, don't bring us that latency.
All right. So I should talk slow. Yeah, hopefully you can find me streaming more often now too, as I try to start raiding. But I will usually just stream when I raid, and that is Kingsley Mac. That is also my PlayStation name. But on Twitter, you can find me as MC King. You can find our show on our website at theguardianhub.com or on Twitter as The Guardian Hub. With that, we thank everyone again for tuning in this week, and we hope you have a good week. Goodbye.
See you later.
I feel like doing a maniacal laugh right now. Would that be weird?
And scene.
And cut. That's a